Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Board Game Specialist. I am Melanie.
And I'm Carla.
And we are now on episode 32. And this week, we're going to talk about Fallcon 35. Last weekend, we attended Fallcon 35 in Calgary, which was a 3-day event. And it was amazing. So it's just like, Kit, we need to talk about this because otherwise, if we did our what did we play, it'll be going on forever. Now, before we get into, so what we're going to do, actually, we're going to do our top 9 games that we played at Fallcon. So normally we talk about the games we've just played, but that's part of the list this time. So what we'll do is talk a little bit about a Fallcon experience instead and who we've met and how that's like. So Carla, tell me, how was your Fallcon experience?
Oh, it was awesome. I think it was the best to date. Like, it was in such a wonderful, fabulous location. Well, maybe not location, but building. The building was beautiful. Like the room that it was in was perfect size, I would say. Like, I don't think it was overcrowded and I don't think it was underused, to my knowledge anyway. Maybe there was some overcrowding, but when I was at tables and didn't notice, and the library was great. The auction was so much fun. It was just an all-around awesome weekend, and I was sad to end. Even Sunday morning, I'm like, oh, this is our last day. So sad. But it was just so much fun. Loved it.
Yeah, that was great.
And what about you? Did you have a good time? You did a lot of volunteering.
I did a lot of volunteering because I'm part of the Fallcon team.
Right.
And I would say I'm the team member that does the least because I'm not in Calgary and I'm so busy with the pharmacies that I do very little. My main role with them is...
you post a lot for them. You post...
Yeah, and that's what my role with them is.
That's a big role too. I mean, to you it's nothing, but to
I
other
guess.
people, posting things is a big thing. So I wouldn't say you're the weakest link, that's for sure.
Yeah, so just because of that, I made sure that I volunteered as much as we needed. I volunteered at the information desk, kind of helping people figure out what their schedule is, where everything is, kind of coming into the event. I did that on day 1. On day 2, I volunteered in the open gaming area, which is just kind of going around helping people pick game if they need help or learn the rules of the games if they don't know how to play a game, and kind of like that mostly. And then on day 3, I volunteered with the Big Brother, Big Sister of Calgary, which were invited to attend Fallcon. So that was amazing. Because they were like, most of them weren't really gamers. And then so kind of getting them introduced to board games and then the event, it was great. And then I volunteered some more in the open gaming area. So I didn't play as much as I possibly could have, really, but the event, it was great. Got to visit, mostly in the open gaming area, I got to visit with a lot of people and got to kind of see so many people again. I got to meet the cardboard kid.
Cool. I didn't even see her there. I've met her before.
It was
in
so
Red
neat.
Deer here.
Because she stopped by the information booth, and then when I was there, she's like, oh, I have a YouTube channel. And she's like, it's called the Cardboard Kid. I was like, yeah, I follow you. So I took a picture with her. It was great. 2 Sheep, 1 Wheat was there as well, so got to visit with them also.
Yes, I ran into Chrissy.
Yeah, that was neat. They played neat looking games. Every time I went by the table, I was like, oh, what is this one? So it was a good table to swing by just to see what next they had on the table. It was amazing games that they had. Got to see lots of old friends again, so that was great. My friend Greg, that's from Lethbridge, so we don't get to connect often, but then these game event kind of pull everybody together, so that was neat. So how about you? Who did you run into?
Well, I ran into, of course, our usual that I came with was my friend Cherry and Ashley, and then we got to play some games with you. We got to run into Michael. I don't think we played any games with Michael now that I think about it. I just briefly
I don't think I did
Paul.
either.
But we got to meet some new people, And well, I did meet her before at Malcon, Maya. She's, I believe she works in Didsbury. She's very nice. I taught her Obsession, her and Derek. It was some other guy that was wanting to learn it. And then I got to meet Bernie. So Bernie's from Calgary. And I had actually bought a game from him. Ashley she'll pick up some games for me in Calgary sometimes. And she's like, oh yeah, this is the one you bought the Great Western Trail 2nd edition from. I'm like, oh, awesome. And then we ended up playing quite a few games together in the whole weekend. He's just a great guy.
I believe Bernie was at Melcon as well, wasn't he?
Yes, I don't think I played a game with him there. I think I met him maybe briefly, but
and it was confusing because he kept putting a different name on his name tag every day.
That's funny. So now we're actually playing games on BGA. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and then I got to meet your friend Greg from Lethbridge and his friend Griff, and we're also playing games on BGA, which is so fun. Those two are great. Very Griff is very like-minded in the type of games I play. So he's a big Stefan Feld fan, which I remember. I think he is, and I'm a huge Stefan Feld fan. I got to play some games with Ash. Now, Ash is a guy who taught a whole bunch of games this weekend. He taught so many games, like the guest hosted games, that he lost his voice. He barely had a voice come Sunday. He's like, okay, I'm going to teach the bare minimums here because I can barely talk. Which was neat. And then I also got to meet Jack, I think his last name. Well, I won't say his last name on here, but he was running the auction.
Yeah, right, I guess.
He's a really nice guy, and I wish I would have got to play some games with him. I did sell him one of my games, but he did an awesome job running that auction. Like he was the intake and outtake, I think, of all the games and putting them on the website, and it seems like a big job that he did.
Yeah. No, he does really good at it. And he did it last year when it was online as well.
Oh yeah, he did.
Yeah.
It was awesome. It was run very well. And of course the auctioneers like Michael, and I don't know if Paul got up there, but there's one other guy, I can't remember his name, but they did a great job. They have loud projecting voices that were easy to hear. That's for sure.
The way they run the auction is so good. Actually, we should take a moment to talk about that because the auction was held on day 2. Everybody attending the auction that wanted to bid got this little baton, which is basically a piece of pool noodle on a paint stir stick. And you have this little foamy baton, and they'll be bringing out a game, and they have multiple auctioneers, so there is no downtime at all.
No.
So the one will bring out a game. It says, okay. And then they'll kind of give a little spurt about the game. And you can tell these are all big gamers. They know their games, and then they kind of build up the game. And then they'll put like, okay, we're starting bid on this one is $5. And then if you're interested, you put your baton on. If there's a lot of batons, they'll go up in increments of $5. So $5, $10, $15. And then it'll go, and then you just keep your baton up if you're still interested. When it dwindles down to just a few, then they'll go like 21, 22, 23, until there's only one baton left standing, and that's the winner of the bid. That was such a smooth way of doing it. And then by the time that one's done, the second auctioneer is ready with the next one. So then he's going, okay, starting bid on this one is $10, and then they get going on it. So it was so neat the way they did it. Plus, they did the golden ticket they kind of had their auction in 2 parts, and then they had the golden ticket where everybody bid on that. And I think it went for like $150, $200 for those ones. But then whoever was the winner of the golden ticket got to go and pick the game of their choice before the auction started. I really like the way that was ran. And then it's like, then they had the runners says, okay, this one wins. So they write on the piece of like sticker that's on the game, kind of like who the winner is and what they paid for or what the winning bid was. And then they come over and then give you the game and collect the change. And so it's smooth. It is so smooth the way they run it. It's such a neat event to attend.
Yeah, no, it was run very well. The prices of the auction, the games that I wanted, people were paying too much for them, so I didn't get to buy anything.
Which honestly, if you're selling games at the auction, this is great.
Yeah,
you want to try to get top dollars for you, right? Yeah. Like the excitement gets built up so much that it did. And then I bought a few. And yeah, some of them I'm sure. Well, there was one I was like, I have my baton up in the air, and then somebody said something to me, and I'm like, what was it? They're kind of chatting a bit, and then come back, and then I'm the winner. I was like, oh no, what did I pay?
You had a pile there.
You
couldn't see you after a while.
I did. I had a pile. I did all right. Well, at the end, with everything that I bought at Fallcon and at the auction, I went home with 20 games. Oh, wow. Which is decent. I wasn't going to attend the auction. I wasn't going to do it. But then we went and walked and looked at the games, and they had Key Harvest. And I just got Keeper and Key Flowers, my favorite game. So I kind of want the Key series now. So I was like, oh, I better go get some cash. And then I made up for it. But no, it was great. It was a great auction. I really enjoyed that event.
The only one I regret not bidding higher on was Oracle of Delphi, which is an older Stefan Feld game, and it's out of print. But
of course,
and like you, I have seen it on the used market, but I probably should have went a little bit more. It was me and one lady who was bidding on it near the end, and so we. I just let her have it. I think I can't remember what I stopped at, but I probably should have went a little bit higher.
Well, and I did that too, like at our table, because we had Cherry, Ashley, you, and then on the other end I had like a bunch of other friends there. So I would put my baton up on games. I was like, oh, this one would be cool, and then I'd look down the table. It's like, oh, Ashley's bidding on this one, so I'll put my stick down, so not to outbid like my friends. So
yeah, exactly. Because I was in front of you, so I would start bidding, and then I turn around and you're bidding. I'm like, you guys tell me if she's bidding, because I'm not gonna bid then. And then they were
the one time I was like, you bid. It's like, okay, it's like, oh, let's outbid her. So we're just playing around.
There was one game, I don't know which one it was, that I really wanted, and those two were bidding behind me to up the bid, and I was like, you two jerks, they didn't even want the game. They're just like trying to up the bid.
There was a lot of other bidders. We weren't really affecting anything yet, but
there's people who outbid anyway, but I was like, take away their batons back there. This is Cherry and Ashley.
That's funny. But, it was a neat event for sure.
Yeah, it was super fun. All right.
Perfect.
Ready for our top 9?
Yes, let's talk about our top 9. Now you got to play way more than I did.
I did.
So I got to play a few games I wanted to play, so that was neat. But yeah, like I don't know, like 2 on Friday, it was kind of saw you, and then all of a sudden we never crossed path again. This wasn't that big of an event, but it just disappeared. But I'm interested to find out what you ended up playing. So let's start with you then. What's your top 9?
Well, I played 25 different games, but I played some of them multiple times. But we did play, was it Sunday morning or Saturday morning? We played a bunch.
Yeah.
Okay. So my number 9 is Golem, made in 2021 by Flamini Brasini, Virginio Gigli, and Simone Luciani. Now, I had big, high expectations for this game because these are some of my favorite designers, otherwise known as the Italians. They kind of will co-op with each other, or, 2 of them, or them and another person. So they kind of are in a group, but will kind of flow in and out depending how they work together. They have made some of my favorite games: Lorenzo, Grand Austria Hotel, Zolkin, Voyages of Marco Polo, and they are coming out with the new Darwin's Journey, which I'm waiting for. I backed on Kickstarter, which is going to be this huge production I can't wait for. So my expectations were really high. Now, the reason it's at number 9 is it kind of let me down a little bit. I would like to play it again, but it didn't pull me in like all these other games did the first time I played them. There was a lot going on. It's kind of like got an old theme to it, where it's like I believe a Jewish theme, where these golems were kind of, I think they were fictitious. Like they weren't, I don't believe they were real, but like it's sort of a bit of a religious theme where these golems would sort of I don't know if they would haunt the halls of these universities and the students would have to keep them under control, or if they were actually, there. I'm not sure how the folklore would go, but so these golems can get out of control and they can move up this track too fast. And if they go too fast, they're going to start giving you negative points. So then you can literally, I don't know if you kill them or you put them like away somewhere or put them to sleep, how it works, but you can, let's just say you would kill them and then you can bury them in these plots and you can get bonuses for them. But you can also build new ones because they do give you bonuses on these tracks as they move up if you take an action for that. The action selection is really neat because it's this marble kind of placement, a little bit similar to Lorenzo the dice game, the card game, sorry, but still a little bit different where you'll pick one marble and depending on the color, that's what track you'll get to move up. And however many are in that line, that's the power of that action. So there's all different kinds of things you can do. Like you can get resources, you can move up a track. You will always move up a track if you have one of the 3 colors of dice. And if you have a white or a black, you get to do something else. Black will give you multiple actions, but it won't let you move up a track. And it'll let you move up the track twice. The white one won't let you move up the track. But it's got so much going on. If you see that player board, there's like 4 areas where you want to improve in each area and upgrade. And you want to do it all just like in every Euro game, but you kind of have to focus on 1 and maybe 2 areas there and go really hard. It was really, really tricky. And maybe that's why I'm not sure if that's why I was like, not sure about this one, or if there was just too much fiddliness in this one. Like it was, I'm going to say like it's designed well, but I'm not sure. It didn't flow super well. So it was, I don't know. I'm going to have to play it again for sure. It could have been, that time of the day when I'm learning something that my brain's fried. I can't even remember what time of day I learned this one. I think it was in an evening. So that could be the reason there as well. But this happened the last 2 conventions ago where I learned one at night and I was like, and I was so looking forward to it and I wasn't sure. But so this one's kind of not too sure, but I'm going to have to play it again. And that was Golem, my number 9.
Was that part of the like a scheduled play for you?
Yes, that was. Ash taught me that. He taught this game very well. But it was, it was just not sure. Totally sure yet.
All right. Well, my number 9, in this game, we ended up playing in the morning of day 3. And it was funny because when we got to the convention on day 3, we all kind of sat down at the one table and we're all staring at each other. And then you can tell we're feeling the convention and the late nights and the no sleep. And then we're all like, So we ended up playing a couple of card games, easy ones just to get us going and awake again. So this particular one is Illusion. And we played that with Bernie, Cherry, you, and Ashley, and myself. And it's such an interesting, neat game because with Illusion, you have these cards that have a drawing kind of utilizing 4 basic colors. And it just has these different shape that kind of comes together. You'll just have like triangles over triangles, or it's kind of very geometric type of designs. And you'll flip a card that has a color arrow on it. So we'll say we flip the yellow one, then you have to add cards into this lineup and going from the least amount of yellow on the card to the most amount of yellow on the card. So when it's your turn, you either put a card into the lineup where you think it fits in, or you challenge the lineup, says, no, I think there's a mistake in here. And then when you flip the cards over, it tells you what the percentage of the color on the card is. So you kind of flip over. If there was a mistake and you're correct, you get that arrow card, and then that's your points towards you. If you challenge the lineup and there was actually no mistake, then that arrow goes to the previous player who just played. It's kind of a brainy, like puzzly game, just trying to, because you'll kind of look and say, okay, well, that doesn't look like there's all that much yellow, but it's just a lot of little spots that has yellow. So is it actually more yellow than this one that has like a big blob of yellow here? Like, and it's tricky kind of visualizing that and then trying to think that way. So I'm not going to chance it. I'll add another card, so it was neat. And it was kind of a neat way to get us a little bit awake and going and kind of going again. So that was my number 9, Illusion.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think I played that at Malcon for the first time, and I was terrible at it. I don't know, again, it was at the time of day, but this time we played it first thing in the morning, and I didn't do too bad. I think I got second or something because Bernie won the one game we all played, but it was I did a lot better. It's so deceiving. Some of those cards, you're like, there's no way that's more.
Right.
And then you flip them and you're like, what? How is that possible? But it makes you think, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. So my number 8 is Silver Bullet, made in 2019 by Ted Elspeth. So this one is a game similar to games like Golf, like a card game Golf, or Cabo. I'm not sure if any of you know what that one is, but you have cards in front of you. This one you get 5, the other ones you only get 4, and they're all face down, and you get to look at 2 of them, and then you start the game. So you have all these cards, everyone has the same number, and you'll flip a card on the deck, and you can either keep it and put it face down and switch out one of your cards, or you can lay it face up and use the ability on it. Now, this one every card has an ability on it, whereas Cabo, there's only a couple that have an ability. Golf is just played with a normal deck of cards. The thing about this one is the theme is the numbers on the cards are werewolves, and you want to have the least amount of werewolves in your village, right? But there's also this little silver bullet. It's literally a half of a metal, not a real bullet, but a little silver thing that looks like a bullet. And if you win that round, and by winning that round, you want to have the least amount of points, you will get the silver bullet. And then the next round, you get to place that on a card, and nobody can touch that card, because there are some abilities where you can switch out other people's cards, or you can just mix up all their cards. Like right when they've just figured out what everything is, you can just go and mix them all up. You can also flip cards. There's some abilities that let you flip them, so then you can see what's there, and there might be a 0 or 1, so you're going to obviously want to switch that out. And if you know on your tableau that you have 2 or 3 cards of the same number, you can take the card that you just picked up and replace it with those 3. You have to prove that they're all the same. So then I could say I had 3 9s, I could replace it with a 1 I just picked up, and now I only have 3 cards in front of me. On your turn, you can also call a vote, I think it's called, and that's kind of like calling Cabo in the game Cabo, and that will be the last round, and then everyone gets one more turn, and you flip your cards, and if you are the lowest, you will count 0. But if you happen to not be the lowest, you have to add 10 points to whatever amount you have in front of you. So it's just like one of those really quick games. Now, the reason I have it up so high is we did only play it once. And I think it's one of those games where you have to play it a few times and get used to the abilities. Because every time you flip a card, you got to read it and think about it. Whereas after a while, once you get to know each of the abilities, you just flip them and be like, oh yeah, I need this, or this one will help me here. But they all have such cool abilities, and I think it'll be one eventually, once we play it quite a few times, we're gonna love it. Because I know Ashley and Cherry just love Cabo, but I thought this was more of a gamer's Cabo, because they each have an ability, and the game can change like just from round to round completely. So that was my number 8, Silver Bullet.
Wonderful. My number 8 is one that we've talked about often. It's called Shifting Stones. I ended up playing that with my friend Bree. I believe Evan played that one with me too. And then there was a couple of people that when we're picking the games, like, oh, do you have room for us? I was like, yeah, sure, come and play. And this is just a neat one. It's a simple game that has such a neat table presence, and you have 9 kind of big, thick cardboard tiles that have like two sides, and they have the one color on one side and another color on the other side. And like if you have green on one side and it's pink on the other side, all the ones that have green has pink on the other side. So it's all like the same type. And then you have like the black and the yellow one, there's only one of those. And then there's some tiles that have only two, and then some that have three of those. And you have this 3x3 grid on the table, and you have cards that'll have different patterns utilizing these tiles. And different cards, different patterns are worth different points. So you're trying to move these tiles and flip them over to match the pattern on the card. Now, to do that, each action costs you a card. So to flip a tile to its other side, you got to spend a card. And to swap a tile with another tile that's sharing a side, that's going to cost you a card. So it has interesting decisions, because you'll have to look at your cards and be like, okay, which one do I want to score? What am I going to get rid of and kind of give up to do the movement, to move the tiles to where it needs to be? And so it's kind of interesting that way. So moving things around until you get like what you need, and then score your tile. Such a neat game. It plays quick. It's a great filler. That's my number 8, Shifting Stones.
Yeah, that's a really good one. My number 7 is Grande, made in 1995 by Wolfgang Kranger and Richard Ulrich. Now, this is an oldie that I've been wanting to try for so long. We got to play this Sunday. We were deciding on a game to play and kind of going back and forth. That's sometimes the tricky part when you go into the library and you're playing with a few people. You're like, okay, what should we play? But you don't want to pick something that they don't like, or pick something they don't know and no one knows it very well, so that you kind of have to read the rule book. You want to pick something that somebody can teach easily. So we ended up grabbing El Grande, and Griff taught us this game. It was me, Cherry, Griff, and Greg played this one. And this is basically an area control game, which is usually not my forte, but I was so into playing this game because I wanted to learn it. And it was so cool. It has this little cube tower, but it's just used as kind of one of the areas on the board. But you kind of have to just memorize what goes in there, whereas all the other areas you can see on the board who's controlling what. And you have these cards that are laid out each round, and those are the only actions that are available. And you will have a hand of cards with numbers on them, and you choose which one you want to use each round, and you will never use those cards again, because I think they're 1 to 11 or no, 1 to 13. And so if you use the 13, that would mean you're going to go first because you have the highest card. But then you're never going to have that 13 again in the whole game, unless you use one of the actions that lets you put one card back in your hand. But you usually don't want to waste your action doing that, because you want to be able to do something else on the board. So it's really neat, because you have to decide the lower cards, like the ones, will give you a whole bunch of meeples to pull out of your province, I think it's called, and put into your supply that you can use. But the higher cards will let you maybe pull one out, or not even pull any meeples out, so that your supply is really low. So you kind of have to, weigh back and forth. Do I want more people out? And then there's one of the action cards that makes everybody put all their meeples back into their province, so they can't use it. And I played that card once. It's cruel and mean, but it's the only way I could assure that I was going to be able to control this one area. It was really fun. And like really simple rules. I'm sure he taught us in maybe 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes, the rules. And it's, it can be played really fast. There could be a lot of AP in this. I don't think any of us had it at the table. We were kind of chatting quite a bit too. So, but it was neat. And that was my number 7, El Grande.
Great. So my number 7 is a game that I actually played with the Big Brother, Big Sister when they came. The way we did, like we met up at the lobby, we had set up like a little cocktail table and we first played Happy Salmon. But then we went inside at the hosted game area and I taught everybody how to play King of Tokyo. And that's my number 7, King of Tokyo. And I got to say, that went down so well. They adored it. And it was neat. So everybody picks a monster that you're going to be. Your goal is to destroy Tokyo or to be the last monster standing. So to destroy Tokyo, you want to reach 20 victory points. And it's kind of a Yahtzee battle dice game. So you have the dice, you'll roll them. Every clause kind of attacks. Now, if you are in Tokyo, so the first person to roll a claw goes into Tokyo. And whichever monster is in Tokyo, all the claws they get will attack every other monster that is out of Tokyo. Then every other monster that's out of Tokyo, when they roll claws, they'll attack whoever's in Tokyo. So for going into Tokyo, you get 1 victory point. And then if you start your turn while you are still in Tokyo, you would get 2 victory points. But the only drawback is when you're in Tokyo, you cannot heal. And of course, every monster is attacking you. So if you take damage while in Tokyo, you could be like, Kate, no, I'm out. So then you pull your monster out of Tokyo and whoever attacked you has to go into Tokyo. Because you're trying to keep, not get your health too low. Because if you get eliminated, then it kind of, you lose the game. But there's also these green energy cube that you can roll for. And then those is actually the currency in the game to buy cards that'll give you special abilities or one-time use things that you can do. It was so neat. And it's a simple, easy game to learn and teach. So the kids got playing it. And then afterwards, they're like, right away says, okay, set it up again. So, and I had 2 games going. So both of them played a game. Then they're like, okay, great. Wait, let's do one more time. So then they played it one more time. They had a blast with it. And that's my number 7, King of Tokyo.
Awesome. I didn't even see where that was going on. What side of the convention was that?
At that time, that was on day 3, and we were in the hosted game area.
Oh, okay. Was there, how many tables were set up for that?
We had 2 tables set up because there was, I think, 10 kids.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't see that
maybe
at all.
Not quite 10 kids, yeah. Well, the Happy Salmon, I did that in the lobby. So it's kind of an easy icebreaker, let's do this out here where it's not surrounded by everybody and then kind of go into it. And then after King of Tokyo, I give them a tour of the event and then where the game library was and where the open gaming area was and how that all worked out.
Oh, neat. That's really cool. Such a good idea. Get kids, turn them into gamers. We need more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And honestly, if you think, depending on who's into this program, board game is a very easy entry game. Now, granted, if you go like we do and have collections like we do, it's expensive. But most local libraries now will have a game collection you can lend out, or that they'll lend out, right? So it's an easy hobby to get into. So easy access. And it was just neat to kind of show them what was out there, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I mean, money-wise, we're collectors on the side as well as gamers. But for people getting into the hobby, when you look at the price of a game, for entertainment-wise, when you're comparing the price of a game to say, say you have a family of 4, you buy, so let's say even a $30 game and you play it, even if you played it 4 times, right? That's, what is that? $7.50 that you probably played, let's say, even if it was only an hour. You take your family to a movie of 4. How much does that cost now? That's over $100.
And then you don't interact.
Food, right? Yeah, and you sit there. I mean, I love movies, but I would much rather play games now with my family and friends. It's such a fun way to interact and spend time together. But I could go on and on.
Exactly.
So
yeah, for sure.
Anyway,
preaching to the choir.
Yeah. Anyway, my number 6 is Hansa Teutinica, made in 2009 by Andreas Stedding. Now, this was another one that I've heard about so much about, and just one of a lot of people's old favorite that they've actually recently made a big box version of with some expansions and stuff. And I signed up for a guest hosted game, which Ash taught again, and he's such a great teacher. This was on Sunday, though, when he was almost out of his voice. His voice was almost gone. But another one that had like very few rules. You know, he had to explain there's basically, 5 things or so that you can do, but it's more so an area control. But the thing about the area control is that because you can push people out, but when you do, they get 2 actions. So it's kind of got that positive player interaction where, not just a game where, I can just kick you out or destroy you, whatever. No, when you will strategically, because you're building these routes on this board, and the routes aren't the only thing that you're trying to do. You're trying to gain, what's the word? I guess control in the area, but you could also either gain control by putting an office there, and depending who is further right has the more control, but you might also just try to get a route there because some areas will just have these spots that let you upgrade your player board. So you might just build a route there, and when it's complete, you will take all your cubes off, and then you just get to upgrade your board. So it's not always about just area control. But like I said, people can push you out. So you might try and put some of your little cubes all over the board, knowing that people are building routes there and they're going to push you out, because then you're going to get to take that cube and put it on a route right beside it, plus another one from your not your personal supply, but the general supplies that you would normally have to take an action to pull that out to put it in your personal. So it's a really good thing. And so at the beginning, we kind of just kept pushing each other out to get more actions, which lengthens the game quite a bit, because if you're not getting routes and you're not gaining control, you're not getting points. So we literally only played half a game, because you end the game when somebody gets up to 20 points. And then you will score a bunch more depending on your controls and your route building and all these kind of different things. But it is such a neat game. And for area control, once again, here I go about how I'm not a fan of area control and signed up for 2 area control games. But it's such a neat game. And I got to play this with Bernie and another lady. Now I can't remember her name. But it was just the 3 of us, because Ash just kind of watched us play. And because he thought, okay, well, maybe we'll have like a friendly game of this, because you could flip the board over and it's a little bit more cutthroat. But we ended up kind of cutthroat right at the beginning, because we kept pushing each other out. And it was so fun, though. But yeah, just the 3 of us played. We... I think we only got to 10 points by the time we called it, because other people, I think Bernie had another game signed up for, and I might have had something going on too, but it was really neat, and I look forward to playing this one again. This one was also, this designer made Gugong. I don't know if you've played that one. And it's an interesting game because it's kind of like a worker placement, but with your cards. Your cards are all the worker placement. And it has such a unique mechanics to that game that it's completely different than this one, but it was such a good game that was one thing that pulled me into this one. I thought, this guy, he does really some different stuff. And this Hansa Teutinica was the same. Like, it's completely different than what you've played before. So many different unique things in this, and that's my number 6, Hansa Teutinica.
Nice. It sounds interesting. For sure. My number 6 is another small one. I've fit a lot of small ones because I was limited in time. This one was actually like the very last day that I played on the first day of Fallcon. I ended up playing this one with Bree, Evan, and Alex, and that's Vampire Queen. Vampire Queen is just such a neat game. And it's funny, like my version of Vampire Queen, I bought it secondhand, knew nothing about it, was part of a game lot, and those cards are worn. You can tell it's been well loved. The one that they had in the Fallcon library was quite a bit newer, so all the artwork and the card looks so neat and fresh and clean. So it's great. But each card is a kind of drawing of a Victorian era vampire. And it goes from 1 to 14. 14 is the vampire queen. And the vampire queen is also a wild. So you can add her to other ones. And there's 2 vampire hunter cards as well. And the one is worth 20 points and the one is worth 15 points. But in this game, points are bad. So you have your hands of card and you're trying to play grouping of cards. So if I played 3 5s, then somebody would have to play 3 cards higher than 5 in order to play on it. Then whoever wins that hand puts the cards away and then they get to start the next one. And you're trying to get rid of the points that you have in your card. So you try to get rid of all of the cards. And whoever gets rid of their card triggers the end of the game. But you can also play the vampire hunter. And when you play a vampire hunter, everybody needs to put 1 single card. Doesn't matter if it's higher or lower than everybody else. You just play 1 single card. But whoever plays the highest card has to take all of those, including the vampire hunter, and they put them back in their hand, which defeats the purpose of trying to get rid of your cards. So kind of like draw from Uno, I guess. And then you're doing this and you play 5 rounds and then you tally up. So when somebody goes out, their score is 0. And everybody else has to tally up all the cards value they have in their hand and see how much points they have. Such a neat game. I just really like this one. This is one that I play all the time. And that's my number 6, Vampire Queen.
That sounds good. I have to try that sometime.
Oh, haven't I not made you play this yet?
No.
Oh, we need to play this.
Yeah, we do. All right. My number 5, you actually taught me this game. And this is another one I should have bid higher on the auction. Darn it. This is Thebes, made in 2007 by Peter Prince. Now, this is another unique mechanic game where you're playing as archaeologists, I believe.
I guess, yeah.
And you are trying to build up knowledge before you go and dig at these sites. So by doing that, you will just choose, you have to go to a location, and then there's 4 cards that are flipped up on the board. And if you're at a location that one of those cards is like, it has that on their card, you can take that card. So you kind of move around a bit just to like gain knowledge. And the knowledge means like it'll have a color of the books, and it might have 1 book or 2 books. I don't know if it ever has 3 books on it, but I think just 1 or 2. And so you will build up these piles of colors of books, basically. There are some other cards that will come up. There's some wild knowledge that you can use for every dig, pretty much. But once you build up this knowledge, then you're going to go to these places that you can do these digs. So say I go to this green spot. I can't remember the names of the places now, and I have built up, say, 6 books, 6 knowledge. I will get to take the green bag and I will get to pull out 6 tiles, and I'll pull them out, and they might be artifacts, right? And each artifact has a different point value. Well, there's some that will have like more 2s in it or more 1s, but like they go all the way up to, is it 8 or do they go higher than 8? I don't remember.
Yeah, depends on the site. Some don't go quite as high as 8. Some.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think 8 might be one of the top ones, though.
And you can even pull out some more knowledge. I think I pulled out a wild knowledge on some of those tiles, but the other thing you can pull out is just sand. So it's just like nothing. So you could literally pull out 6 tiles of sand and get nothing, or you could pull out 6 tiles of like artifacts. And in games like that, I usually don't have a lot of luck. I usually would be the one pulling out sand. But I actually pull out a lot of artifacts and like knowledge and good things. There was only a few digs where I pulled out quite a bit of sand, but I pulled out quite a bit. And it's neat because then you have to spend time depending. So if you want to pull, like, if you want to use all your knowledge and pull out a bunch of tiles, well, you have to spend so many weeks. So it's more expensive. Like, time is the currency, basically. So the currency is on like the board, or your little pawn will move around the board, and you will finish one whole year and then you play another year in a 3-player game anyway. But So if I spend like 6-7 weeks doing that, well, I will jump ahead and then it'll be a while before my turn, but then everybody else will go. And then once you get to the year, I think what is it? You clear, you can do the same color of digs again the next year, because you can only do one color each year, right? Because you'll flip that tile. But it's so neat because it's got that push your luck aspect, but it has, set collection, and then just, I don't know, it was just so different. I've never played anything like it. I really enjoyed it. And that was my number 5, Thebes.
Yeah, Thebes is great.
Mm-hmm.
My number 5 is Framework. We played Nova Luna at Gobfest, and I really enjoyed it. And then I sucked at it because I didn't fully understand what I was trying to do at the beginning. And then I was like, oh, okay, I see where that's it. And I was like, okay, this would be cool. And I've been keeping my eyes open for it, but it's not easy to find right now. Like, you cannot find Nova Luna. And then I watched a video that Covray had done on Framework, and it's part of a trilogy from Nova Luna, or with along with Nova Luna, kind of utilizing the same mechanism. So a friend of ours was putting in an order. She's like, hey, want anything? I was like, ooh, I want this one. So I ordered this one, and I actually got to play it for the first time at Fallcon. And it is neat. So you get all these tiles, and on these tiles, they're going to have different colored frames. And they might also have different colored circles in the middle with numbers on it. So the circle in the middle is kind of like the requirement of what this card wants to be accomplished. And if it has like a number 3 that's in this brown circle, it wants to have a cluster of 3 frames connected to it in order to be able to fulfill that. And then if you fulfill it, you get to put your little token on it. And you're trying to kind of draw these tiles, add them to your little tableau, trying to create these clusters of frames so that it can fulfill all these requests. And the first player to put their last token onto what you've built there is the winner. It was such a neat game. It's simple. It's very simple play. It's kind of neat to look at, but it's really okay, which tile do I want to take? Well, if I want to finish this, and then I would get myself, I was like, okay, I'm going to put this here. Oh, well, I totally can't do this one now because I've surrounded this tile and there's no green to be seen. It's like, oh, whatever. It's like, so it's a simple game, but there is a lot of strategy going on that you kind of like, oh, right. Oh, wait. Oh, no, I can't put that there. But yeah, it was neat. I really enjoyed that one. And that's my number 5, Framework.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's my number 4, actually, is Framework. It's one of those games that is, just easy rules. You just need a few little rules, but so hard to master. You think it, just by learning it, you're like, oh, this is easy. Let's just play this. And then you start going, and you're like, oh, I really need one of these. And then there's 4 of them out there, and there's 3 turns before it's your turn. And of course, that one's going to be gone. But yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's my number 4 as well. So on to your number 4.
Yeah, my number 4 is Bunny Kingdom. This is a game that I'd heard a lot about. It sounded interesting. And me and Evan, when we were working the info desk on the first day, he got talk about that one. I was like, oh, let's play that. And he's like, yeah, let's play it this weekend. So we ended up playing it with Evan and Alex as well. Now, they've played this particular game many times. This was my first time, and it definitely reflected in the final score. I think they beat me by over 100 points. But it was interesting. So it's a card drafting game. You get these cards, and some of the cards will have like H6, and that basically represents a square on this grid. And you're trying to collect these land areas to create these clusters of bunnies that's called a fief. And some of them have cities, so then you put your bunny into the city. Some of the cards you have will allow you to build a city. Some of the cards will allow you to add resources. And this is one where at the beginning I wasn't playing this right, because what you're trying to do is you'll be scoring 3 times, but you're trying to create these clusters of bunnies. And you're going to multiply the carrot towers on each cities that you have in this cluster, and multiply that by the resources. Now, at first I thought it was by all the resources, but it's not. It's by unique resources. So if you have 3 wood and 1 fish, that's actually 2. And I thought it was by each resources. I was like, oh, this is a great cluster. Look at all the resources. They're all wood. So it really only counts as once. I was like, oh, okay, wait, I get it. So my first half of the game, I give up a lot of good stuff. Just didn't fully understand. But it was neat. You know what? This one reminded me of Chinatown. Because you are collecting the land, kind of creating thing, which then also reminds me of Foundation of Rome. It just kind of, all those 3 games kind of has that similar kind of land area control mechanism. And I really enjoy it. But so that was my number 4, Bunny Kingdom.
Yeah, that's such a good one. And adding the drafting of cards in there to that, and just all the different like abilities on the cards makes it so neat. I hadn't played that for a long time, like just I think in the last year, and I'd always wanted to play it too. And it's such a neat game, but hard to wrap your brain around putting those resources on the board and they just sit there like that. You don't actually physically grab a resource and having you just want the variety and not just building up all this wood or stuff is neat. But good one. All right, my number 3 is Architects of the West Kingdom. Now, this one is made in 2018 by Shem Phillips and S.J. McDonald. And this isn't a new to me game. I have this game and I've had it for a long time. We just happened to play it with Greg, I played it with Greg, Ashley, and Bernie. And it was the first time he's ever played it, and Ashley the second. She wanted me to bring it along to play during the convention. But we actually played Greg's copy because he had the player mat and everything as well. Which was so nice to play with. But it's such a fun game. It's such a neat worker placement idea where you start with this huge group. I don't even know how many. It feels like 25 workers, which usually in worker placement, you start with 1 or 2 and you have to like work so hard to get more workers, right? But the neat thing about this one is you're collecting resources, but you only play 1 meeple at a time. But if you put one, say at the forest, I think it's called, where you collect wood, you'll put one there and you'll get a wood. And then the next time, if you put another one, you'll get 2 wood, and so on and so on. So for all the resources, but you could like have 10 people there and get 10 wood. But the thing is, what someone else can do is they can go to this spot on the board where they can pay $1 and they can take all your meeples and they can put them on their board. And then the next turn they can take them to jail and they can get $1 for each one of them that they collected. And it's so neat. And it sounds like it's really mean, but it's really not, because once they're there in jail, you can just send one of your meeples to the location and just take them all. And it's not that big of a deal. It's just a way to get money and to like slow down someone if they've got a whole bunch of little workers on one area. What you're basically trying to do here, though, is you're architects and you are, collecting resources and hiring not workers, but assistants, I think they're called. And then you are building buildings, or you're helping build on the cathedral. So, and the neat thing is there's this track and it's called, the track where you go up and down, and if you...
Yeah, I remember. Is it like your
blanking?
Is it like your fame or your popularity or something like that?
Because if you go down low, that means like you are
like you've gone rogue, you've gone bad, right?
Yeah. I don't know why.
Yes, I'm not sure what the track is called, but it's like your goodness and badness.
Yes, kind of. But because you can go to these black market areas and those are bad, right? So then you'll go down on this track. And if you get too far down on this track, you are so bad that you can't go and work in the cathedral because you're just too nasty. And then if you go too high up on this track, you're too good. You can't even go to the black market. So it's so neat because you try and balance these things, because going to the black market is so juicy. You get so many good things, but then you go down on this track. And moving up, if you're really up high on this track, you get a lot of points at the end of the game. So it's so neat. And these guys... Shem and SG, they are developing such neat games. This is like the West series, They've just
Yeah.
came out with the South, one game in the South series with they're using dice that looks so interesting. And I didn't back it, and I've tried to late pledge it, but they don't do that. So I'm just gonna have to wait till that one comes out to retail. But yeah, that's my number 3. I love this game, Architects of the West Kingdom.
Nice. That is a good one. I think I haven't played the final one with the rondelle, but that one is still my favorite. My number 3 is Planet Unknown. This was, the final game I played on Saturday, and I was kind of walking around, and the guy was starting to teach. And I walked around, took pictures of almost every game that was being played, just to kind of have pictures of the games. And then the one guy was like, "Oh, I gotta go. Can you take my spot?" So I did. I sat down and took his spot. And this was an interesting game. Like, you are each have a planet, and we play where we each had a different type of planet that had special abilities, and you're placing these tiles on there, and then depending on the terrain of the tile, what it does, and some of the tiles have comets on it, and then you'll put that on there, but comet will stop you from scoring, so you need to send your rover to pick it up and get rid of it. And then when they get rid of it, they'll go into this other holding area, and then they'll be worth points at the end as well. But each row and columns that you filled on your planet is going to score. And depending on how long the row is, how much is going to score. And all those numbers are on the side there. And then, like, my planet was kind of had a neat water element. And when you kind of play the tiles, and then it has a different areas, you go up that track as well, because you have a track for each element. And then, like, one of them would play this one, and then all of a sudden you unlock your rover. So you have a rover, and then if you keep going up, you can unlock your second rover. And when you play a tile that has that location on it, then it actually allows you to move your rover. And so it was interesting. It was really interesting. I had a challenging planet, because all planets aren't created equal in this particular one. I think the other side is, but this one wasn't. And where everybody had, like, the big planet in the middle, and I had a big black hole in the middle, and I had to build around the black hole. So I had, like, the 4 corners. So it kind of made getting around a little trickier. And I was nowhere near winning at all, but it was neat. And this actually reminded me a lot of the Gaia project or Terra Mystica. But instead of, like, building onto the community thing, everybody has their own planet that they're building on, but you're, acquiring these different terrain and then going up the tracks of each one, which kind of has that Gaia project feel to it. But it was really neat, and I enjoyed that one. So that's my number 3, Planet Unknown.
This one looked so neat because it had that little, like, Lazy Susan, like,
oh yeah, I forgot about that, because that's how you get you take turns being the active player, and you turn that Lazy Susan thing to what you want. And then we all have, like, a marker on another spot. So then wherever they pick, you have, like, 2 pieces that you get to pick from. So be like, okay, well, do you want this one or that one? It's kind of like, okay, I'm going to take this one, I guess. And so, yeah, that whole Lazy Susan for the like the polyomino pieces that you add to your planet, that was neat.
Yeah, that one intrigued me. I looked over and saw you playing that. I'm like, oh, I wanted to try that one. That's awesome. You got to play that one. Is that one you would snap up if you found that in the used market? If
I came across it, I probably would. It was interesting. It's different enough from Gaia Project and Terra Mystica. Like, Terra Mystica, Gaia Project are so similar that I have one. This one does add enough different elements to it that makes worth getting it. And it was neat. It was fun. But yeah, it just has that similar feel.
Right. But you don't build off of other people like you would in...
No, you have your own planet. Yeah.
Neat. Awesome. All right. Well, my number 2 was a surprise that it is this high up. It's a smaller game. We played probably under an hour with the teach, and Ashley brought this game. And this is called Homebrewers, made in 2019 by Matthew O'Malley and Ben Brossett. Now, these guys are, I'm not sure if both of them or one of them made a game called Brew Crafters earlier, a couple of years before. And that was a heavier kind of worker placement. the production wasn't great on it. It was just cubes and like almost like a spreadsheet where you would place things. So it wasn't really pretty or anything, but
right.
Not that totally matters, but I think the mechanics weren't super smooth as well. It helps, matters a bit.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Anyway, this one is a very streamlined, played down version of that, I believe, but so nice and pretty and beautiful. Quick playing, but it still felt meaty. So what you're doing is brewing beers, and you have all these different ingredients that you can make, and you can add all these different flavors. And I mean, I am not a beer drinker, but I really did have no idea that you could put other than the rattlers, that you could put fruits and honey and chocolate and all these different things in beers, which I don't know, maybe I should test those out, but I'm just not a beer drinker. But so what you do is you have a hand of dice and you roll them. Everybody rolls them at the same time, I think. And then you have this phase where you can trade your dice. So if I got like 3 brewing actions, well, actually, if you get 3, you can re-roll them automatically. But say I got 2 brewing actions and an action that would let me pick a card, and I didn't want any of those, I needed something else, I can trade them to other people. And so if anyone else, they have to agree to the trade, but if not, you could also pay $1 to flip one of your dice to whatever you want. And so if you want to flip it so that they were all 3 the same, then you get to re-roll them, or you can flip it to exactly what you want. And then you will take these actions. So you kind of go in turn order, and you will do all your actions at once, I believe. I'm forgetting, we do one at a time. But anyway, so what you can do is you can either take a card, which is, you can use the action on it, or you can use it for flavor and put it in one of your types of, like, you'll have IPA and different types of brews, and you'll stick those in there. There's it's also a set collection at the end of the game. Like if you have so many colors, which are flavors in certain brews, then you can get points as well. But what you do on these cards, they have these little bonus actions. So if you've got a whole bunch in one brew and then you take the brew action, you get to do all those little actions. You start at the bottom and you get to do all of them. So you kind of build these little engines on all your brews. And then you have to clean up as well, because as soon as you brew something, you turn it to like the dirty side, and you might fill up all these, I think you have 4 or 5 spots to fill up the dirty brew, and you need to clean that up, because then if you have less dirty ones, you'll get to move up higher on these tracks, because there's also tracks you need to move up, which also give you bonuses. So it's just kind of like a real bonus game where you try to build up your engine enough to get all these bonuses, and then move up these tracks, because also at the end of the game, whoever's highest on each track is going to get most of the points. And I think that is scored twice throughout the game. There's kind of halfway through and then at the end, and then you'll score for like the game objectives. But it's so neat and so streamlined, so quick. Like I said, with the teach, I think we played it in 45 minutes, but it still felt like, one of those like meaty little engine builders, and I just loved it. There's another couple games that these guys make or have worked on are Planet X, or Search for Planet X, which is a completely different game. That's a deduction game. They've done a couple co-op games between 2 castles, and Paint the Roses, which is another one we want to get, all of us, and play together. So they have quite a range, these guys, and I'm looking forward to playing Paint the Roses. But yeah, Homebrewers was one she found on the used market, and it was still in shrink that she got it.
Oh, and nice.
It was a score for sure. But yeah, that's my number 2, Homebrewers.
Sweet. My number 2 is Downforce. Now, I enjoy racing game. Like, I'm a big fan of Formula D, Formula Motor Racing, Camel Up. And every time they talk about race game, Downforce always comes up. So we were at Fallcon. It was in the library. And I was like, you know what? I want to know what this is all about. Is it really that good? And it really was. And it's really interesting because you have the board, and it's the track. And on this track, there's a couple of areas where you you'll kind of tally up who you think is going to win. But then it all starts with bidding on these race cars. So you have these race cars, they have special abilities, and you take turn bidding in like increments of millions for these ones. I ended up buying 2, which, kind of cost me a lot, but mistakes were made. So I ended up buying a couple of cars, and then each car has like a special ability. And then you kind of have your cars and you can look, say, okay, well, I seem to have like a lot of orange movement. So it makes sense to try to bid on the orange car because I could probably move him along faster and then kind of get into a winning position. So that's kind of the mindset behind it. Now, and so you have these cars, they're set up, you've bid on them. So you have your own car and then you'll start playing these cards. And the cards will have different numbers with different colors with different numbers associated with it. So it could be like orange 6, then blue 5, and then green 3, and so on away. And then you move the cars of that color forward. And the one putting the cards will be the one moving the cards. So they're like, okay, I'm going to go 6 on the yellow card. And I'm not yellow car, so I'm going to make him take the long way in the corner, so make him waste his space and stuff. And then you're moving all these cars, but in the corner, it narrows right down. So you could be where in the corner, there's like a 2 line or 1 line. And then all of a sudden there's the blue car that's there in the way. So you can't get through. So you got like a movement of 4, but there's only 2 space in front of you. And then the blue car is blocking you. So, and that's like the whole point of the game as well, right? Trying to set up the car so that it's blocking the other cars and get yours in front. And then we're like, oh, wait, so the green car is blocked right now. Okay, well, I'm going to play this card that has green movement of 6. You can't do them. Like it was so bad that way. And then you finally cross one of the kind of checkpoint, and then you're like, okay, you look at the race, who do you think is going to win? And you bid on a color. Say, well, okay, well, I'm way back, so I think red car will bid. So you put a check mark there. And then you kind of keep going to get to the next check mark. Say, okay, who do you think is going to win there? And you kind of bid on another car. And then so at the end of the race, you'll take the position of the cars that you won. And then if you're in first position, it gives you so much. If you're second, it gives you so much in prize money. So you kind of tally up the position of your car and where it landed, and you kind of write that down. Then for each bid that you taken, if it was one in first, second, or third, but the earlier bids are worth more, of course. So like you kind of tally that up, and then you got to take out the amount that you bid to buy these cars to begin with. So whoever has the most money is the winner. I ended up with 4 million. And I think the winner had like 22 million. So I was not close, but it was neat. It was such a neat game. I see why this one gets all the buzz and gets mentioned every time there's a racing game. Downforce was great. And that's my number 2.
Yeah. I figured you would like this one, and I think your boys would like it too. Don't you think?
I think they will. Yeah. It's on my wish list now for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think they would. Awesome. Glad you got to play that one. All right. Well, my number 1 is Keystone, made in 2022 by Jeffrey Joyce and Isaac Vega. Now, this one I had played it once before the convention. Well, no, I guess a couple times solo because there's a solo campaign in it, but played it once with a group of people. And it was a Kickstarter that I had just received. And this is a beautiful game. I think you had taken a picture of Chrissy and Nick's copy. Yeah. And because I thought, oh, I didn't know anyone else had one there as well. But so I played this with Ashley and Bernie. And Bernie immediately put it in his cart after the game. He's like, I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to buy this one. But it's so nice. It's all about the North American animals. And a lot of them are Canadian animals as well. Not that certain animals are Canadian, but I mean that we have up here.
That's right. They're ours.
There are animals, but
dibs.
Yeah, dibs on them. But they some of them will say on them like Canadian lynx or whatever. But it's neat. Yeah. So what you do is you have this grid in front of you, and it's a 4x4, I believe. Could be a 5x5, and you have a hand, or not a hand. You'll have cards laid out in the middle between everyone, and you are trying to place these animals. That you're trying to make ecosystems on your board. And how you do that is you have at least 2 that have the same symbol on them. So they will have different colors of symbols, and I can't remember what they are. I'm so analytical, where it's just like colors and symbols to me are so much easier than remembering the names of what they actually are for. But
yeah.
So say I had one animal that had like a pink, a blue, green, and an orange on it. And then as long as I put an animal next to it that had one of those colors, they would be in the same ecosystem. So then if I put another one, then they would all have to have the same for them to be in the same ecosystem. But they also have to go up in value. So up or down in value. So you either have to go 1, 2, 3 or 3, 2, 1. You can't go 1, 2, 3, 2. Then that's, you don't have the same. You'd only be able to count one of those. So you'd only be able to count the 1, 2, 3 or the 3, 2. Now you're building rows and columns. So it's quite tricky and kind of Sudoku-y, where, you can't do it all. You can't have a perfect board that everything goes together, because, if I do a 1, 2, 3, 4 down here, and then a 4, 3, 2, 1, and then go up, well, the middle's going to be all kind of wonky, but you're not going to get it perfect. But what you're trying to do is get some really good rows or columns, because some of these animals will also have keystones on them. And if they have a keystone, then whatever you score in that column or row is, if they're in the ecosystem, you're going to double that score again. So if you can get some rows and columns with like 3 or 4 in your ecosystem that have like 2 or 3 keystones, you're going to get a whole bunch of points. And the other thing is there's these little action tokens on the middle board that you can take. If, say, the cards in the row are not anything you want, you can flip one of these action tokens, and some of them will let you just take more synergy, which are kind of like currency in the game, because while you're choosing the cards, the first one is free. The second one, you need to put a little acorn down, synergy they're called. If you want the next one, then you're going to have to put 2 down. So you're going to use those sometimes, because, it always happens that that card that's flipped, which is going to cost you 5, is the one exact one you need. So you need to build up synergy. But some of these action cards will give you straight like 8 synergy, and you'll flip it over, and you'll get to burn some of the cards that are out there, because they can get stale after a while if nobody wants them. Or you can flip one and grab 3 off the top of the deck and just choose one. And there's all different types of actions you can take. But it's so puzzly and so neat. And, you could hate draft in this game and take a card, but if it doesn't fit on your board, you're not going to do that. The only thing you would do maybe is discard it into the discard. Whereas there can be an action that people can dig out of there. So if that action's available, you're not really hurting anyone that way. But I guess near the end of the game, when you're just filling spots that you can't add to your ecosystem, you might take a card away from someone that they really need. But it's such a neat game, and it comes with this solo journal campaign, and it changes up the game so much. It'll put cards on the board that you have to move around and change, and then there's also wild cards that you can fit in a spot that can be used as any number, which are really neat. But it's such a beautiful game and so neat, and that's my number 1, Keystone.
Nice. That one does seem or sound super interesting. My number 1 is a crossover, and that's Thebes. I just love that game. So this is one that I've owned here. Everybody I've shown it to have been hunting it down. And unfortunately, this is one that is out of print and hard to get a hold of. But it's neat. And it's basically Indiana Jones minus all the exciting adventure part.
Yeah.
But you're collecting the knowledge, and then you're going to the dig site and pulling out, trying to get artifacts out of it. And it's very thematic in a way that when the artifacts comes out, like there's still as much sand there, so your likeliness of getting something goes down. But the more knowledge you have and the longer you take for the dig, the more you can pull out, so it kind of helps that ratio as well. And then it's with the time element to it, right? So it's like, okay, I'm going to go from London to Paris, but then that's going to cost me 1-2 weeks, and then I'm going to learn this information here to get these 2 books, but that information is going to cost me 4 weeks to learn. So, and then that moves you ahead. Now you got to wait till everybody passes you before you can play again. It's so good. It's such a neat, fun game. I just love this one, and that's my number 1, Thebes.
Yeah, good choice. I love it. I'm sure if I played it more, it would have moved up on my list as well.
Yeah, well, I don't think we even got to finish the game because you guys were lined up to do another hosted game. So we played like 2/3 of it. But yeah, it's a neat one. I really like it. So that was our top 9 from Fallcon. Fallcon was just so cool. I mentioned to say too, I ended up playing a game with Roberta Taylor, who is the publisher of Creature Comfort. So she was there as well. We played Lost in Relie, and she really did not like that game. It was funny. She's like, huh. And she goes like, well, I do not like this.
What was it? What kind of game was it?
It's a card game. It's Cthulhu themed. And you have 5 cards in front of you that's kind of like the portal, and you got to get rid of them. And it's one of those games that you have 1 loser, no winners. You're just trying not to go insane, I guess, basically. But you're playing cards, and then you can play like a matching card or higher. And if you play the matching card, and the more of the same card that plays on, like the more special ability gets unlocked. So, okay, well, now you're allowed to do this and trade a card. Now you're allowed to do this and discard it, or different things. But I enjoy that card game. It's simple. I like the Cthulhu theme.
You lost me at the Cthulhu.
I think it's if you're not into it, don't even try it. It's not gonna appeal, right? But yeah, it really did not for her. So it was funny.
Oh no.
That was funny. Yeah, it was a great event. I'm glad we went. At the end of the day, I kind of was like, hey, I gotta go home. Like I was exhausted.
Oh yeah, I was exhausted for days after.
Yeah, exactly. But it's so neat. It's so worthwhile. And even then, like I find you just spent a whole weekend playing games nonstop. You go home and like, okay, you guys want to play a game? It's like I'm just warmed up now. Let's keep going. So. Yeah, no, it was a great event. Now, next week, we're going to be doing our top 9 dexterity game. And then me and Carla have talked about it. It was like, okay, cross our fingers. Let's hope we have at least 9 games to put on our list. So it's not a very widely used mechanism. Like there's not tons and tons of dexterity games. Or more so if it's like the younger kids game, I think. But I have a few that I really enjoy, so we'll be putting that on the list and see how that all lines up. Now, before we call it quits here, Carla, where can we find you?
I'm on Instagram at Boardgame Specialist, all one word. And I have a Facebook page called Red Deer Board Game Fanatics. What about you?
On Instagram, I have I'm Mel's Board Game Room. So it's Mel's _board game _room. On Facebook, it's Mel and Friends Board Game Room. And then I also have my YouTube channel that's Mel's Board Game Room.
Awesome.
Great. So I guess that's it for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Bye for now. Thanks for listening.